Hey, how are you?
All right, okay.
Wow, and you dressed up too.
Nathaniel, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Pleasure to meet you. So I'm going to do the first half of this interview for TaRon because he's getting his life together. I'm his spiritual advisor. So if you allow, I'll be doing the first thing, and hopefully when he gets here, we can take a quick break and he'll join.
Oh yeah, okay. Is there going to be a there's going to be a shift change about halfway through?
Yeah, somewhat.
All right. Well, this makes it interesting and challenging as an interviewer. All right. So, what, in your opinion, is the reason why TaRon developed his unique voice on the drums? What made him different, and what caused him to have the style that he has that sounds like it's influenced by other drummers, but that it's meaningfully unique, in your opinion?
Watching him grow up, I just remember him playing in church, um, getting sat down many times because he couldn't keep up. Um, as he grew older, gigging on the scene, top 40 in the jazz scene, he got another whiff of being sat down or confronted on why his playing wasn't really matching with what was going on. And he got to a point where he just had to develop an ear by just listening. A lot of people are visual learners because we have to be. He developed the ear for just listening and paying attention to detail.
Where do you think his penchant for humor, both behind the drums and out in front of the drums, came from? Do you think that was just inbuilt, or do you think it came from some of his early musical experiences?
You think he's funny?
Well, never mind if I'm wrong.
Humor probably comes from maybe mistakes. Hopefully, he doesn't make it a second time.
In your opinion, did TaRon have any early teachers or musical influences that put him on the path to be a great drummer, or that inspired him to put in the work he needed?
Yes, his early teachers would come from his church, Zion Missionary Baptist Church, 2517 Del Rock Road in Rowlett, Texas, where he sat under his mother, his grandmother, and the minister of music there, Jesse Myers, and the first lady of the church, Patty Jackson. That was his introduction into this, I guess, this world that he saw fit to just take challenge of.
But now TaRon has some elements of church drumming, but also some elements of funk and soul and jazz. I'm wondering, at what point in his career do you think he broadened his horizons and supplemented some of the church influence with other influences?
Obviously, as time goes on, you get older, you're surrounded by new new people who put a new thing in front of you. When TaRon got to middle school, it was learning how to read and jazz, your straight ahead jazz, and being introduced to things like what Dave Matthews Bands, Dennis Chambers, Dave Weckl, these people who are the innovators of our time, and him being able to watch them on video and dream. His father, who passed when he was 15 years old, took him to a concert when he was 9 years old. He was bodyguard for Shaka Khan. It was Shaka Khan, Gladys Knight, Barry White, and I think Kenny Lattimore was opening up. But his father allowed him to go and sound check at the Starplex in Dallas, and TaRon would see the dream. It's like, hey, it's more than these four walls that I grew up in. You're going to touch the world.
And from your vantage point as an outside observer of TaRon's progress, what role do you think inborn talent played, and what role do you think hard work played? And I'll ask him that as well when he's able to show up.
Talent is hard work. It's hard work. having talent. And I feel like the same way somebody less talented will have to put in the work. It's all the same. How you prepare is how you're going to show up and do the situation, the gig, whatever it is. So listening, taking the time to not just taking the time, doing it enough time to have the music inside of you. So when you do play it, it's like it's just an extension of what you already know.
And at how early an age do you think he felt like he might have a calling to do that on a bigger scale?
Probably 14.
Interesting. That's surprising. So before then, in your opinion, he was doing it mainly for fun or as a hobby, and 14 was the age when you feel he got really serious about it.
Honestly, I can say for him, it probably was never a hobby because this is
Hmm.
all it's taught. TaRon never had a real job. He likes helping youth, but he's never had a real job. All he
Hmm.
has, all he's ever done is played the drums. It's put him in some great situations, put him in some shitty situations. Everything's a learning lesson and a blessing. But he's always been meant to do this.
I respect that. I love that clarity of purpose. A lot of my audience, I think, and students are people who feel like they might have the calling, but maybe they're a little bit ambiguous about how hard to go in that direction. And many of them are balancing other life things with it. So it's always interesting to talk to great players and hear what that journey was like for them. I'm wondering if you have an anecdote or two to share about some of those hard knocks lessons that TaRon learned as he was coming up.
I feel like two memorable lessons for TaRon is one given by amazing saxophonist Shelly Carroll. He played a straight ahead gig with him, and the shit wasn't swinging good enough for Shelly. So Shelly comes and takes the stick out of TaRon's hand and start playing 8 notes on the ride. And he's like, now that's swinging. TaRon was embarrassed. That hurt that somebody had to correct him in front of people. And I think a lot of people have that problem, being corrected in front of people, you know. But that changed the game for him because he took that lesson and started to explore what straight ahead jazz really is. Because TaRon just don't want to be put in a situation where he's not qualified or he has to say no. Bernard Wright would give him his second lesson in his late 20s, playing a Tuesday night jazz gig that residency we was doing at where's the place they were playing at? Sandaga 813 in Dallas. They were playing every week, and one night they enjoyed a joint outside, and Bernard Wright just told him, it's like, nephew, you got so much information and it's beautiful, but sometimes it's it's pretty much what you don't play.
That's great.
It honestly made TaRon realize is that we can have all of this, I guess, feels, built in us, but sometimes it's really how we cater to the music. It's like once we step on a bandstand with other people, you have to be a team player. Now, if that was TaRon's gig, then of course he could do that. But playing in the bandstand of people, it doesn't matter how great you are, you have to serve the music.
Yeah, that's a great point. One thing I often struggle to balance, and one thing I think about a lot, is what proportion of effort to put toward developing chops, technique, just ability to do things on the drums. And obviously on TaRon's Instagram, his Minel videos, his gig videos, there's no shortage of fancy chops. But I wonder what you would say about if somebody's coming up, maybe they're maybe they got a few years under their belt as a drummer. What time should they allot to getting technique under their belt, getting chops, being able to do like a shed versus listening to music, being able to play with the group?
I'm gonna tell you something about that. TaRon only practiced. The way he practiced was just listening to music and playing along with the music. So it made him have to learn the record, how the record was played. A lot of people study to their talent. They're like, oh, I got the groove. That's the song. They're not studying the hi-hat patterns or what, the kick pattern or snare pattern really, really is. They're going off their talent. I studied music just like TaRon would. If I'm going to be a part of it, I would like to study it as if I'm the one that played it.
So full detail orientation, like not just a high level kind of get the gist and move on, but going deep into everything that's going on and everything the original drummer played. Is that where you feel like if you could give a message to drummers listening to this, you feel like there's a lot of extra progress to be wrung out of just going that little bit deeper?
Yeah, it's like not just thinking for yourself. It's like create a bandstand while you're practicing to it. Like if you don't know the music, how can you be creative over it? You're just pissing all over everything that these people made. And that's not fair. And that's why they go hire somebody that's going to serve the music. It's not how talented you are and all the chops. It's how you serve the music, how you serve the artist, and how you serve yourself. I guess for me, it's like if you got the call and you say yes, me as a life coach to TaRon Lockett, I tell them, when you say yes, that is your contract. He nods his head. But he knows once he says yes, he has to do what is asked of him. Because that's your contract. A lot of situations, you don't get the paper. You don't get the paper contract. Your yes is your handshake. Your yes is your sign on the dotted line. So if you say yes, do the work. Show up prepared. I'd rather over-prepare than be under-prepared, especially if it's a situation I don't know. You should be treating every situation the same, whether it pays $1 million or $5.
Do you feel like as TaRon has progressed in his career, he's been more choosy about the gigs he takes, knowing that advice is in the back of his head, i.e., if I'm going to take any gig, I'm going to commit fully. So I'm going to be really, really careful about which gigs I take. Is there kind of a winnowing that happens where initially you're saying yes to everything, and then the more you learn about yourself and who you jive with musically, the more you're being slightly choosy?
I like that jive. I like that jive. TaRon rather make music with people that he cares about at this point. When you're younger, it is the yes, because it's like you're trying to find yourself in this world. But as time goes on, he's been fortunate to be able to make music with his friends for the last 10 years. And when you get that type of thing under your belt, it's like it's kind of hard to go to other situations. It's like you've created this lake of love and respect for the people that you're playing with, because they're giving their all to be on this bandstand. I'm pretty sure we all wish that we can be in situations like that, but it doesn't always work out like that. So when it doesn't, at least give it a try so you can be able to say, I can't do this a second time. Sometimes your spirit just tells you in the beginning, no, I shouldn't do this. But if it's a situation, hell, sometimes you just need the money. Sometimes you not even, man, bump the money. Sometimes you really just need the experience. Everybody can't play, jazz. Everybody can't play funk. Everybody can't play a ballad. Everybody can't play folk music. So sometimes you got to take a gig that's uncomfortable for you so you can see how the preparation is for, because sometimes, man, talent can make you feel like you can do anything. And then you put yourself on a situation and you get your ass ate up. Pause, bitch.
Yeah, that's a great jumping off point. I'm curious if you have a specific story about a gig that TaRon took that stretched his musical abilities and humbled him because it was so far outside his kind of core skill set.
I might have to ask him about that. Because TaRon doesn't complain. He doesn't complain. He just does it. And if he can't do it, he'll just say no.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't think there was a situation that really made him feel like he couldn't do it.
Do you feel like he values being able to mold himself to very different musical situations to some degree? Like, even though he has his own voice, being a chameleon and being able to step in to a band and become his version of what fits best?
Being able to adapt to any situation is the name of the game. And all he wants to do is be a chameleon. That's the name of the game for him. Every situation he's been in, everything hasn't been the same. So he has to float to what that situation is. And the only way you can float to things like that is to listen to things like that.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you said earlier about a couple situations where TaRon feels he got rebuked by a band leader or made a mistake or learned an embarrassing lesson. And this is a question that I'm always thinking about, and that people ask me about to a degree. And I have memories of my own with Hard Knocks sort of things, as I think everyone who's played gigs has. But as TaRon's life coach, what do you feel like is the line that's okay to go up to when it comes to Hard Knocks and letting musicians know if they're not making the grade? And what do you feel is past that line?
Shit, for anybody, if you take therapy, you should know the first thing you're supposed to do to a person is be kind.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how would you want somebody to handle you? And I don't even want to answer this for TaRon. I just want to answer this in general. How would you want somebody to handle you if you weren't doing what you needed to do? So once you think about that, handle that person in that same kindness and grace. Because embarrassing somebody, you never know what they're going through. They probably just had a bad day. And I know this ain't got nothing to do with music, but like people got to start thinking about people as human beings. Everybody ain't got it together. Some people are going through it more than the next person. So that person who's up there fucking up may have been the person that really just needed to play at the moment. I saw something, this post that's going around about something that happened at Small's Jazz Club where a young guy got kicked off the drums.
Saw that.
I've seen stuff like that happen, and things like that would be funny to me at a younger age. But now I'm almost, I'm almost 40. I'm almost 40.
There's a kinder way to handle it.
If you handle me that type of way, I might just, that's why I don't like guns. I don't like the gun laws, because I might just pistol whip your ass on stage if you disrespect me like that. I don't want to harm nobody, but doing shit like that, that's disrespectful. Pull me off to the side and let me know what I did wrong, how I can work on it so I can come back. Like, don't push me away. Don't push me away. Like, me and you just met today. And if I heard you play today and it didn't seem to go over, I'm not gonna treat you like that in front of people. And if we're cool like that, and in the most respectful way, I probably wouldn't say anything because we don't know each other like that. But I'm not gonna sit there and talk about you to other people, because now that's gonna put in their head, they don't even know you. That's not fair.
I I saw that clip and I was likewise bothered by it, although I wanted more context. Like I commented, I wonder what the backstory is, because maybe the guy on the drums had been like refusing to get off and he'd been asked nicely or something. But if it really was the way it looked, then I feel like it's maybe more about the guy who was yelling at him than the guy behind the drums. I mean, he was being musically inconsiderate. He was playing over people and playing too loud, but that's what happens at jam sessions, right? And you just wait for the guy to finish the tune and then you're like, okay, maybe we should let somebody else play, right? There are better ways to deal with it.
There's nicer ways to be. You know, we don't know the whole backstory. We don't know the dude could have been mouthing off and being a dick to the guy that threw him off, and he probably just had a explosion finally. But still, man, this is establishment. You got a business to run. People are there. You know, I believe in doing things in decency and in order. So it's a nice way to do things. I don't want to embarrass nobody. I don't want nobody to embarrass me.
At the same time, from the perspective of the drummer who's coming up, there probably needs to be a willingness to receive those hard lessons and kind of a thick skin when it comes to being told that you're not great, being told you have things to work on, being told that what you're doing is whack. And I don't know, do you feel like...
Well, people shouldn't be talking to people like that, saying like your shit is whack. Come on. Like, say something to help that person. It's like I haven't been a life coach all my life. I had to go through some shit. I had to mess up. I had to be corrected.
Yeah.
And then I turned my life around and I turned into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Bischoff went through trials and tribulations. Now I can help people like TaRon. But even the way I help him, I am kind to him because, one, he's still a man. We can go at odds, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to leave mad. It's all about understanding. Help somebody understand so they can help themselves.
Yeah.
Nobody's always been great. Everybody sucked at some point. So treat people nice. Give them some type of gem that they can take. Like, I like people like a Nate Smith or a Dennis Chambers. They're just genuinely good people. And they give good advice. Like, they give real cool advice. Some of the coolest, chillest people you ever meet. And that's why they work like how they work, because it's their spirit and how they treat people.
Do you have a specific Dennis Chambers story you're willing to share?
For Bischoff or for TaRon?
Well, I'm talking to Bischoff currently, but either for you or something he told you.
Well, Bischoff and the GOAT never really got to exchange words, but Bischoff has learned a lot about Dennis from TaRon. I'll let TaRon tell you when he comes on. Therapy takes a minute, so let him get his shit together, and he'll be here. But that's a story for him.
Okay, I'll keep that question chambered. Well, I still have you. You were talking about the necessity to be kind as you're transmitting a message and how everybody sucks when they're coming up. And that almost is a throwaway statement, but I think it's really profound. It's like nobody starts and immediately sounds like Dennis or like Nate or like TaRon. So in your opinion, as TaRon's life coach, what would you say to somebody who's on the journey? They just started out. They obviously don't sound as good as their heroes, and they're wondering whether they have what it takes or not. What would you say to them?
Start somewhere. Like, actually sit down with some music and try to play along with it. Mm-hmm. How the hell were we able to watch Tom and Jerry and they never said anything, but we were so entertained? Random, but I think about that with practicing, listening to random music that I don't know about and finding it entertaining and just playing along with it. It may feel weird, it may feel uncomfortable, But hell, if you can't express yourself playing that, are you learning? So take the time, just listen and start. Don't wait on nobody else. Start. Stay in your lane. You can only be as great as you. Everybody has their lane. Enjoy yours.
And in terms of whether the drums chooses you, would you say if in those early days when you're playing along with music, if that feels good and it feels like something you want to do more, and you feel like however rudimentary your technique, you're able to get inside it and feel the music flowing through you, that's a pretty good signal that maybe you should continue the journey?
Sometimes it takes a while. Like sometimes it takes a while. I don't think my ears became I guess man, let TaRon answer that one too. That's a good one. Like keep that one in the chamber.
Okay.
Because I think he would want to tell you how his ears develop himself.
Well, is there anything else you want to leave the audience with before TaRon comes in?
Yeah, I do have to pee. We have today. Enjoy today. Tackle everything that you can that you have control of today. Don't worry about what hasn't happened. Don't worry about what's going to happen. Worry about what you have control of, and that's today. Love on yourself. Love somebody. Make somebody else feel good. But start with being kind to yourself.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for popping in. Do you want to do a quick shift change? Do you feel like TaRon is ready?
Oh, yeah. Make this call real quick. Hey, Lockett, how you doing, man? Oh, well, hey, that's what we pay for therapy for. You on your way? Sure, you're right. See you in a few. Peace. Yeah. He'll be here in a quick few minutes, man.
Well, hey, nice to meet you. How was the therapy?
Oh, man, just life, going through it, trying to get better. How are you, Nate?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day here in Brooklyn. You're in the Dallas area, right?
No, I'm in LA.
Big fan of LA. Haven't been back since before the pandemic. I really liked East LA. I really liked Echo Park at Silver Lake there in the mountains. What drew you there?
It's probably the most randomest shit ever. We did this jam card thing some years back with Corey, and I was sick as a dog. We had stayed there like a week recording a record, and it was at the spot called Sayers Club that's no longer open. And I don't know, I just felt the urge, like they were having like kind of like a jam with the who's who in LA. And I thought that shit was like really dope because you're seeing like your Instagram peers, like people who you normally don't see. I'm like, man, there's not a me out here. I should try it. So shoot, I went home and gave away all my belongings, put my drums up, and here I am.
Is this like your permanent studio space behind you, like where you can practice and record and everything?
Uh-huh.
And it looks like it's going out on a limb. It looks like it's just your room. You're not sharing with anybody.
No, not at all.
Deeply, deeply jealous. I share with like 5 other people, so I have to take my cymbals off the drums and can't leave permanent mics up, etc.
Honestly, I was going to be in a situation like that, but being on the road and leaving for like months at a time and having your gear in the room with somebody else, it doesn't matter who it is. I've already had my share of having a room in Dallas, and like things were going missing, things were broken, trash being left, food being like it's ugh. Like when I leave, I come back and it's like how I left it.
Yeah. Was the Was the most recent tour with Corey? Is that who you were out with?
Yeah, we haven't toured since November last year. We're getting ready to go, or yeah, we're getting ready to go on tour July, June through July. So I've been working lately with amazing composer named Steve Hackman. He has shows going out. Like we just go to cities and we'll play with the symphony that's in that city. Like now we're next week or the week after next, we're going to Phoenix. He has this amazing show, The Resurrection of Tupac and Biggie.
Hmm.
Super, super dope show. It's like his take of their songs mixed with the symphony. It's breathtaking.
Sounds awesome. All right, let's get deep. From what I know of your life story, you were going to college studying something non-musical, and I think there was some sort of gig event that happened, and you basically decided to go all in full time with music. I What was it that made you feel like you could do that? And I'm also curious if you could go into a little bit like where does the fearlessness come from? The ability to just say, I'm not going to have a backup. I'm just going to jump in with both feet.
Honestly, it's probably just from not ever having a plan B. You know, I've only had this plan A. I want to make music feel good. And whatever capacity that is where it takes me in my life, I'm going to marry that. Um, Bro, it's like when I get that gut feeling, it's like my spirit tells me when it's time for me to move. And I know when I go against it, how I feel it, how it makes me feel. It's like it doesn't set right. My gut just feels gross. So it's like, man, I have to acknowledge that, hey, man, when I get this feeling, it's time for me to move. Or if it's time for me to sometimes it's a situation that's time for you to move from. Sometimes it's a situation it's that you need to move to or move towards. Like in college for me, this is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go to college. I ain't gonna say people forced, like you're gonna do this. Well, it really felt forced, for me to go to college because it's like make it when we want to see you make it out of this, blah blah blah, this. And like my childhood wasn't bad. I wasn't getting into trouble and shit. Like that's not my thing. I know better. Like I had to come home to like two notorious grandparents, and I just know better. I'd rather not be in trouble. My grandparents used to always tell me it's so easy to get in trouble, but it takes a lifetime to get out. I'd rather not get in trouble. So, you know, I'm going to go for what serves my spirit good, and music does that.
I heard from Bischoff that you've never really practiced chops or exercises per se, but that most everything you do has been derived by learning music, learning songs. How do you feel like the way you practice has changed over the years? Like what have you discovered from having more wisdom that's helped you practice more efficiently and get things into your playing more efficiently?
I think it comes from getting older. Like I still feel young. I'm about to be 38 in a couple of months. So
that's really young. That's still young. I'm 45.
but as we get older, like our mind changes. It doesn't mean the ability changes, but when I was younger, I feel like that's how I played. As I'm getting older, that's what my playing is turning into. It don't mean that you lose something. Like I still got all that shit, but I just rather play chess, than checkers when it comes to music. I want to play the long run. I want somebody like how many times have we heard, a musician or a drummer or anybody sit on a podcast or interview say that like, you know, people are always going to remember how you made them feel, not the lick or feel that you did within a song that made somebody wow real quick. People are always going to remember the experience from what you did. I want people to feel the experience. You know, if it requires for me to do that, I'm going to do that. But I'd rather just be smart about the type of music that I play.
What would you say if you had to describe an average practice session when you're not learning music for a particular gig, when you're just exploring? What does that look like these days?
I'll turn on the metronome when I get to the studio, and I'll just play and try to build into something, because I feel like everything can be a song. Like, if even sitting in here by myself is like, how can I entertain these imaginary people that I see in this room? You know, it's like, how can I make these people move? Even though I'm not on this big stage or in front of real people, but how can I discipline myself to still make, still have fun, but make it feel good?
I want to ask you about something really specific, and that's the double stops. Like, when I watched some of your solos on Instagram, and I think some of the Meinl videos, you have this really unique way that you would play the tom along with the kick drum. And I've heard of a few drummers do that, but not to the degree you were doing it. Like, you're sort of creating harmonies or textures between the tom. So like a tom alone is one texture. The kick drum alone is another texture. A tom with the ride cymbal is one texture. And then, more so than other players, I feel like you use the tom with the kick drum as a texture all its own. And that's something that anecdotally I always kind of wanted to emulate or practice. Just because I think it's, for me personally, like, I really like drummers who make texture a huge part of their playing, like Keith Carlock, Nate Wood. But was that something you practiced specifically, or did it just kind of come out?
I'm just going to tell you, I grew up, I had a moment in time, and we're all still good friends to this day. I just want to shout out, like, my Dallas drum buddies, my brothers, it's like we're all this sound because of togetherness that we had. You know, we all don't get together and play, like we used to. But at one point, we'll go to pull up to a church. I'm gonna name some guys and you can check them out. I'm gonna start off, Cleon Edwards, Cedric Moore, amazing drummer and producer. His band is the Funky Knuckles. Marcus Jones, we call him Lil Marcus. Lil Mike Mitchell, Black Dynamite. We got some more guys, and it's like a younger crew, but I'll just say these guys that I can, think of right now. Like, we spend a lot of time playing drums. If I come home in the summer, like, it might not be full drum sets, but it was kind of like an energy of feeding off each other. Like, that was when I guess we was building iron, sharpening iron, but on everybody's own, everybody was sharpening, not just that, but sharpening the tool of learning music and being able to be themselves behind the music. And I wanted to just mention them because I don't think none of these guys as a whole, and how we talk about our city, that I come from, Dallas, I don't think people understand. Like, it's a conversation out there. Like, we have this thing. I don't know what it is. And it comes with a lot of trial and error. But man, it's just a beauty of knowing what to do. And I'm saying all this, to get to this floor tom thing. I don't know how that shit comes up. I just know, playing with them, we all created a language. We we all take something from each other. They probably don't take shit from me, but I've taken something from everybody, all my peers, all my homies at home. Jason Thomas, Jason JT Thomas that plays with Snarky Puppies, Robert Spud Seawright. You know what I'm saying? These are like the big brothers. Like all these guys are part of me. So it's like when I hear myself play, I hear all of us because I feel like I'm just a representative. Even though I'm from there and I live here, I'm still a representative of that sound.
Yeah, of course. Do you ever practice on the pad, or did you ever practice on the pad? Did you ever pull out the pad and do? Oh, you got it. You got it. Okay. What role does that play? Do you think, especially for somebody who's developing as a player?
For some people, like I don't feel like when I sit down, I don't feel like I have a like I'll be sitting here and I have the TV on and I'll be sitting there just doing this, just trying to strengthen my fingers. Cause for me, drums at this point, it's not about how aggressive I play. It's about touch.
Yeah.
It's really about touch and finesse for me. It looks good, whatever, however you want to portray it. So, um, when it comes to practicing and stuff, I don't think it's, rudiments for me. It's more just waking up my senses, you know, nothing crazy. I don't have this, oh, you do this roll around, do this 4 times. I was in marching band when I was in high school. Every now and then I feel the need to do countdown 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that bullshit. But other than that, man, it's like practice for you know practicing for me is just discovering something else and making sure I can feel good over that. Like if you sent me a song or an artist, I like for people to send me new artists to listen to because I don't know everybody. My son and my sister put me on the best music. They're always willing to share something new with me and my girlfriend. Like they're always willing to share like things with me that make me go, "Oh shit." It's so much to learn. And I just want to be a student of everything until I die.
Along those lines, what was your biggest takeaway from working with Erykah Badu?
Man, feel. Cause her whole show was about feel. Like the first time I played for her, it reminded me of growing up in church because it's always about following the director, like watching somebody to know, okay, when to start, when to stop, blah, blah, blah. So it made me feel good that I grew up in church getting that natural instinct to pay attention, follow the leader type thing. And her music is just fun. I haven't played it in a long, man, that was so many years ago, but it was a growing tool for me because not just playing with her, it was more for me, the musicians who I was experiencing at the time, like Thundercat was playing bass for, uh, R.C. Williams, who's an MD for over 20 years, he was playing. Ella Ray Feingold was playing guitar for her. Like her situation was just like she had these superstars in the band, and like they were very giving. Ella Ray Feingold gave me this thing called All the Breaks. I gotta find it. It was like 250 of the greatest drum breaks, and I studied the hell out of that thing. Thundercat was always putting me on some. Well, Thundercat put me on Alan Holdsworth. He was put me on so many other things, and everybody was like on this Jay Dilla wave. So I was being introduced and educated on so much more. So it wasn't just about me playing that gig or playing for her. It was the education I was receiving to go and play for other artists because it's just like now I know this template. Now I get to go over here and can learn this way. It's just like I just became like this big ass sponge.
Yeah. And along those lines, what was your biggest takeaway from playing with Prince?
Uh, man, that was so short lived. Uh, I'm not a yes man. So I think one of my biggest takeaways from that is like, shit, don't be a yes man. You know, a big takeaway is me learning that when you do take an opportunity, like he's the greatest. So if you feel like flying you out there to Paisley Park and your ass sit there for a few days and not do nothing, and then you do something, then so be it. I learned a lot that I don't like sitting around. It's cool to sit around and get paid, but man, maybe if he lived in LA and not Chanhassen, Minnesota, but that I really don't even talk about that shit, man. That's really emotional for me because
Hmm.
like he's the greatest, and that was a dream of mine. In my high school yearbook, you know, my dream was to play for Janet Jackson or Prince, and to get that opportunity. But by playing with him, because I was playing for his protege, Liv Warfield, so that's what put me under his radar, like
Mhm.
playing with her, and that shit was such a joy playing with her because I was exploring. I felt like the high school me again. Excuse me, playing rock because I was in this high school show band called Celebration in Garland High School, and it was playing like all the hot shit, the '90s pop, '80s pop, rock, whatever it was. It really was broadening my mind concerning different genres of music. It was building that library. So when I got to play with Liv, like her music was reminding me of all that stuff. So it's just like, man, I could bring that approach, and they loved it. And eventually, like he started flying me to Paisley Park by myself, and yeah, that shit was just badass. I really wanted, I really want to know if he had more time on this earth and I would have stayed, what would have happened with me, Mono Neon, and Dominique Taplin, because
Hmm.
he had tapped into something with us. And I feel like, in a sense, even though it's for my own integrity, I feel like I may have slowed that down because I left to be a funk apostle, because that wave right there, man, I had never felt like that on stage before. Like we was going out, not rehearsing and just trusting Corey and trusting each other. And like, man, that shit, I still can't explain that feeling to you. And it still feels new to me because I felt like a kid. It's like, whoa, we get on, we're doing this.
Like one of those premonitions you mentioned earlier, where you just get a gut feeling and you decided to follow that.
Yeah, no regrets at all, man. I always make the right decision, even when I make the wrong decision.
I love that. Well, I want to respect your time, but in closing, same question I asked Bischoff. What's one thought you wanna leave with the audience? What's one thing you want everybody to take away?
Just take your time. Like, don't rush nothing.
Hmm.
Like, don't let anybody tell you like what's not for you or what you can't do just because they don't think it. Everybody is a non-believer until you show them, and now everybody want to jump the gun and like, man, I knew him when he was. I told him you should do it. No, have that love for yourself, and man, even when somebody telling you shouldn't do it, just like, man, don't give up until you try.
That's deeper than it sounds, and that's also hitting me between the eyes because I'm getting to be a bit of an old man, and I think I've had a couple life experiences that tracks with. So I'll just say that.
But like even for us as older men, it's not always like me and a couple of buddies sat in here yesterday and just had a powwow, about life and the things that we deal with, as individuals, separately from the world. Cause it's just like, man, what we post on Instagram and all this shit, like people take that as if your life is like this perfect thing. But nobody fucking knows me. Like, you're only allowed what I show you. And I try to let people, I give the respect, but it's just like, man, when you come and hit me with the bro and I ain't never met you before, it's just like, I love everybody, but at the same damn time, it's like, let's be real. Like, we don't know each other. We don't know each other. But the best way with that, just be kind to that person. I had people talking about I'm their mentor. And I'm like, man, do you know what a mentor is? Mentors is hands-on. Like, I ain't been hands-on. I ain't showed you anything. Like, I'm not your mentor. Now, if we think about like somebody who you may look up to, like, let's look at it like that. Cause hell, I look up to people that are younger than me. Age ain't got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Age ain't got nothing to do with it. So even you, Nate, love on yourself, man. You ain't getting old. Whatever you want to do, you can do. Just love on yourself and take your time. And as I'm telling you that, I'm telling myself that, because life ain't fair. Nobody cares how we feel about things. And I ain't finna get on here and get emotion and all that stuff. I just want to see people win. I really do. I got so many favorites. We all are here, and we all deserve in our own right to win. So it's like, take your time, love on yourself. We can go anywhere. We can go anywhere, but it's how we treat ourselves and how we treat the next person. It's a lot of amazing assholes out here that are sitting at home because of how they treat people or how they treat the situation or how they treat the gig. I don't ever want to be labeled as that. Even if you call me right now, if I tell you yes, I'm going to serve it because I told you yes. And man, some shit just be so simple and we take advantage of it because we got the call. And that ain't fair. I want to treat every call like it's the first call I'm going to get. And I also have to humble myself back to that position.
Well, I think that's an amazing note to end on. Anyway, this has been one of the most interesting interviews I've done. I really appreciate your time.
If I can give you anything to shed on, shed on Fela Kuti's Zombie. Isolate the drums. Just listen to the drums and realize how wrong we all been playing that shit. Take care now.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.